I asked my son what rizz was, and he said, if you have to ask what it is, you don't have it.
He's right.
I'm low on rizz. I know I did this and doing this. I did this finger thing.
I know.
And I realized how like free of rizz I am.
It's okay. You're the homeschooler in the back of the car. Just sit next to a cool kid and maybe he'll transfer some cool to you.
Oh, man. Well, today we want to talk about dating, especially as you get over a certain age. You can get real jaded. And by over an age, I mean like 20. But still, like it's like very easy to get dated with jading. It's very easy to get jaded with dating.
Yes, it is very easy to get jaded
Oh,
with dating.
Oh my God. Is this the first sign of a stroke?
Dated with jading. I think it works both ways, in all honesty.
I think it does.
I'm Lily, single mom to teen twins.
Mother! I'm recording in here!
And I'm Scott, single dad to a preteen boy. Dad! It's under the sink!
We're two old friends trying to navigate single parenting.
And spending the whole time thinking, I hope I don't fuck this up. I'm interested to see who's more jaded, you or me.
Might be a hard call.
Pretty jaded. It's both pretty jaded. Man, the horror stories I've heard and experienced, it's been an interesting ride. But first, is there anything from this past week that you want to bring up? Any parenting fails or successes? We keep doing fails. Maybe there's a success we want to throw in there.
I did have one angry text. Like, I know that I talk about my relationship to my ex as it's like really lovely all the time. And it's not. I'm still human. We're still human. I still get so pissed off. But he's not financially attentive to anything. I was always the one in charge of everything, always. And that's fine. I preferred being in control if he was going to be a spaz. But he has a student loan that keeps coming out of our, what we call the shared account. Really, it's just my checking account because he doesn't put money into it, which is why it's mine. But he used to, and he has a card for it, which, he's used for the kids. But his student loan keeps coming out of there. And he, like, every time, like, it was just like an automatic payment thing that was set up like ages ago when what really was our family account. And he's canceled it with the student loan people and they're not supposed to be taking it. And like every time it comes out, it like I've sent him something and he's like, I called them. They say it isn't. I'm sorry. And I was lying in bed yesterday morning going through my like bank account statements as I sometimes do. Not my statements, but like my act. I'm like, oh, that feels like there's less money in there than there should be. And there was like a little line item from his student loan. And like I took a screenshot and I like angrily underlined it with red markup. And I was like, you have to take care of this. Threaten to sue them. I don't care. You're going to need to fix this. I pay for everything. And I was like, boy, oh boy, really probably shouldn't be texting that at 8 in the morning on a Saturday.
Well, it's that take a breath before you text. And I do that angry. I do that. For work, I've done that like that. It's such a hard rule to follow. The take a breath, come back to it 15 minutes later and see if you still want to send it. Like, but it feels so good to send it. Like it's that.
I was so mad.
Get it off.
And after it was off, like I didn't even care anymore. He texted back a couple of hours later, probably when he woke up, and saying he was sorry and that he'll bring me cash. I was like, well, hey, like why cash? Like, are you this bad?
Do you not have Venmo? What is he, a drug dealer? He's just going to drop a paper bag off at your house?
I know his bank account information because I can send money to his bank account. Surely he remembers. He is like an incompetent when it comes to finances. And so the fact that he said he'd bring me cash next time we saw each other was like icing on the cake.
You don't know what kind of cash it's going to be. It could just be rolls of quarters or something. Like it can be... Like, no, I don't trust cash at all.
I would send him back with roll of quarters and make him go. Like, that is something that I feel comfortable with. But that is one thing I definitely felt not terribly bad about, but like I felt like it felt a little bit like failure.
Hell, the number of times I've done that, Jesus, man, if I had to ask forgiveness for every time I've sent a text that I wish I hadn't. I mean, I'm normally not angry on text. So I practice something called, that my therapist suggested I do, called gray rocking. And essentially, if you get because I just had a big issue because my ex texts a lot. And so we're trying to bring that down and turn it into emails and turn it into And it's because that when she thinks of it, she says it. I mean, she's texts everybody 30 times a day. It's just who she is. But that can get very, when your phone is dinging constantly. When it was my wife, it was a little annoying. Now that it's my ex, it's a lot.
Yeah.
And so my therapist's like, be a stone and just say, okay, or sure, or do that. And I found that nothing pisses my ex off more than just saying, okay, and sure, and fine. It drove her insane.
Yes.
It drove her insane.
I can weaponize an okay like nobody's business.
So it's so funny. Like your angry texts are like my angry text is just saying, okay. And that was like way worse than anything I could say. And I honestly, it's what I had to do. Like, it's so much better now because we've been able to, like, you got to take the emotion out of
disengage. Yeah, no, I get
some
it.
of these exchanges. Disengage. Your emotions should be in a phone call.
You can really lay into them. I will say this is the first time that there's been any angry anything in quite some time. But man, they really can't get you still.
Yeah, I don't think that ever goes away. Like it's the war wound where you will always feel a twinge.
Yeah.
And the answer will often be disproportionate. Anyone who follows this podcast knows I'm the king of the disproportionate response. but it's tough. It's like, for most people, this is just their elbow. And to me, it's like a torn ACL or whatever. I'm totally missing up where the things are on your body, but you get the point.
Different
ACL's
limb,
in your knee, completely differently. Anyway, you get the point.
Yeah.
Well, none of this has anything to do with dating, except that now maybe we can find somebody new to have all of these interactions with. Who else can give us that titch? Well, I mean, I wanted to talk about this because I came across something, and I think there are these all over the country, and I didn't realize they were there, and I don't know how to feel about it, and I don't know if you know about them or not, but there are Facebook groups across the country of women in different regions, and essentially they are, watch out for this guy.
Yeah. So a friend of mine belongs to one of these groups.
When she dates somebody, she will then send a picture and the name to this Facebook group, and they will ask, has anybody dated him? Does anybody know it? Essentially, it's like a police report on the date. And people, I know that guy. He's this. And it's rarely anything great. Like, and he's the best guy. It's always, I know that guy, and he's he's an asshole. I know that guy, and I think he drives a van. Like, all the best. And I find that terrifying because for me, the only people that will be talking about me are the people that are mad at me. Like, nobody's going to be like, the guy who broke up with me is a great guy. Like, I mean, not nobody, but it's not as likely to happen. And even if I have a good reason for breaking up, how many of your exes gonna only say nice things about you and not warn about you because you broke their heart? Like, they're not gonna always say nice things about you. And what was really interesting, and then I wanted to get I could see opinions just going across your face, but you're just ready. You're like this tight little hole in the mouth. You're like ready to come out. But her ex had, she had issues with him, and somebody asked about him, and so she wrote about it, and her ex found out about it. Somebody tipped him off, and he came over. He was out in front yelling because he was so mad about it. And he would went, and a few people were talking about it, about him, which, by the way, I'm not saying, he got wronged here. I mean, his response tells you all you need to know about him. But he was sending notes to people you better not be talking about me. And it drove him crazy that this was happening about him. And I'm on one side, I'm you can't act like that. You're just, people are entitled to their opinion and this is how people are. But the other part is what would I do? I wouldn't do that. But what would I do if I found out that there was a group of women that I had previously dated on a Facebook group warning other women away from me?
Well, I have often wished.
I love it. You so want to be even-handed about it, but you so love it.
I've often wished that on the dating apps, they were more like Yelp reviews so that you could get stars on them. Like, you review your date, you get some stars, and that is a very helpful metric because don't order, the basil fried rice from this Thai place is good information to have. I won't get it. uh, that feels so wrong to me, except if somebody who's going to act like a lunatic, like you definitely want to warn people about that.
Exactly.
But your point is also super valid of like, well, all of those people you're not dating anymore or never, like hopefully people who you don't date would step in there and be like, oh, he's my kid's soccer coach. Such a great guy, blah, blah, blah. Like, know him.
Oh, that's a good point. I wonder if that happens.
I
That's a good
don't
point.
know. Like, I'm not, I mean, New York City is way too big, I think, for these. Not that they don't exist. I know that there's one about one guy for sure who like has dated like all of Manhattan. Wouldn't you, like, let's say you had a daughter. Wouldn't you want other women to tell her, like, to avoid a particular guy if he was no good?
I mean, it's so hard because yes, definitely. But the flip side is, I wrote a book. My first book was called, Booty Nomad, and it was all about this woman I'd broken up with. And yes, you're laughing. It's called Booty Nomad. I put that title on there so that publishers would pay attention to it, thinking that they would then change it to a real title after they kind of saw the crazy. And then they refused to let me change it. I was so mad. I'm like, it was supposed to just be there to grab your eye out of that stack of manuscripts you have. And they're like, we love it. Don't change it.
Sounds like it worked.
Yeah, well, it did work. I mean, yeah, I'm here to tell the tale. But I call my ex in there. I call her the eater of souls. And the point of the book is the first half is me demonizing my ex. And the second half is me realizing how ridiculous it is for me to demonize my ex. And that really she's just another person where it didn't work. And like, that's the arc of the piece. And yet, if I were part of your Facebook group in that first half, I would say she's the worst person in the world. And I would say all these awful things about her that are not fair because of how I feel.
Well, they could also be true for you too. That doesn't mean that's who she is for everybody. And like, I genuinely think that like people got to find their own people,
But that to me that's the point. Everyone's got to find their own people.
Yes.
And does a Facebook group like this that essentially distills everything into the one kind of guy you should be dating, does it accomplish that? Or does it make it harder for people because there might be guys on there that you would get along with, and yet the women that didn't get along with them for whatever reason are now warning you away?
I think that is the connection. I have a very good friend who, was the kind of guy who only dated 25-year-olds, and as soon as they got old enough, he broke up with them. Like I love him so much, and but I would never have wanted him to be anybody I know, like the boyfriend of anybody I know.
Yeah,
and I just thought like he just doesn't have like the emotional capacity for this. However, like he met a subsequent 25-year-old, and they stayed together for quite a long time, and they're married now, and he's doing things that I'm like, I cannot believe you are acting like this. And it's so sweet and so kind and so homemaking and like all kinds of stuff that you're like, well, how on earth did this happen to you? But it's because like together they make a good pair.
And it is like, dating is not two people that then completely stay the same concurrently. You change each other, and hopefully for the better. I don't know. It's like every bad dating mistake you've ever made that you probably regret lives forever on this Facebook group.
Yeah.
And yet your Yelp idea is a great idea because it's not about, oh, I was in a relationship with this person for a year and what did it happen? It's, I went on a date with them and they left halfway through. It's all those like more like social, how are they to date, not how are they to fall in love with. And that's what you need. How are they to date? Like, are they going to call you? Are they going to ghost you? Are they going to judge you on your clothes? Like all these like silly little things that people do.
But God, you know what though? Like even that is wrong. Like for the, like, okay. And I can only speak like with, about men who I've dated. So largest grain of salt with this one. But like, there are some men that you date and like, they don't give you anything back and you're the same person. And then you meet somebody and they're head over heels and they're constantly like in touch and thoughtful and want to do things for you and want to, like, it's not necessarily about like what kind of person they are. Cause like maybe to another girl, that wasn't it. But there's like some chemistry, there's some spark, there's some desire, there's some like something there with the two of you that makes them act in a different way than either they usually do or then they do with somebody who they don't have that same spark with. It's just so idiosyncratic that it's hard to say, but I definitely want to know if somebody's going to try to strangle you like that.
I mean, look, the murder Facebook group, look, this guy's murdered 5 women. Don't date him. Like, yes.
I want to know that.
100%. It never ends that way though. Like it probably started like that, but it never ends.
It probably started as like a safety issue. Like
100%.
Somebody wanted to warn some girl because like this guy took her somewhere and it like made her feel very uncomfortable and unsafe, and they were starting it as a way of warning others, which totally I appreciate and would want. But what you're saying is like seems like less.
Well, it spirals.
I don't know. It's such a hard.
It's so hard. It's just one of those things where there are so many kernels of things that are really helpful that it's just, you see what happens when it kind of spirals, and there was probably no way for it not to spiral. Like that's just, but for me, the biggest worry about that is really just how you end up feeling about dating in general when this is kind of what you're consuming all the time. Like,
I feel awful about it, and I don't want to do it.
Exactly.
And that's, it's a little bit of like, we talk about, a technology thing in another episode, and it is kind of like that. Like the fact that dating has become like a app-based game is a real problem. Like it, because it's become so gamified that like swiping and all of that stuff is it's not real interaction. It's not real judgment. It's just like the intention is for those apps to keep you in there and spending more money. But I am so disillusioned by it. And for me, like as a single mom who works full time, has a business outside of her regular job and is doing a podcast and like needs to clean and do groceries, the only real feasible way for me to meet somebody new is through one of these apps. But because it's so awful, I won't do it. Or I do it occasionally, like so rarely that, and it doesn't ever really lead to anything. But I will tell you, like one of the things, I had a friend ask, like, how come you're not dating? I was like, it's not worth the work. Like it's too much work. I don't want to take care of somebody else right now. In all honesty, like I'm taking care of 2 kids. I got out of a relationship where I was the caretaker for 25 years.
Yeah.
By choice, like my own, it's who I become in relationships. So like, I don't want to do that right now, but also I don't want to put in the F of having to like go through the apps to meet somebody. But I asked recently that the friend who said, I was like, I just wish there was somebody who could just like do it for me, like pick somebody for me. And they're like, well, there's matchmakers. You could do matchmaker.
Yeah, there are matchmakers.
So I thought about doing it for a story, and we reached out to a couple. And would you like to know what they said? That they only take men as clients for matchmaking, and that women, especially women over 40, are too difficult or threatening for men to match with them, that they don't have enough success, that they don't take them on as clients. Can you imagine?
That's the saddest thing I've ever heard.
I know. I mean, I laughed so hard. I was like, not even the matchmaker can find a match for. So like in one way, it made me feel a little bit better. Why it felt so hard for me is like, okay, so just kind of basic, you're single and you're employed and you take care of yourself. Those are my basic criteria. Like that's hard enough on the apps, but you're telling me somebody that has like those kind of like basic adult level criteria for other dates, that's too difficult?
See, this is why I've always said that matchmaking shouldn't be privatized. It needs to be a public utility. Is because they're trying to make money off it, but it needs to be a public utility. It just needs to be like our water and our electricity. It's a right as an American. If we were living in India, you'd be matched already. You'd be matched twice. Though it was funny.
My dad's sisters were like my dad's Iranian, and his sisters both got matches made for them. That whether they were their choice or not was a different story. But they ended up marrying them. My dad says they did have a choice, but
who knows? I mean, a choice out of 3. It was a multiple choice.
I don't think that was a choice. It was like yes or no. That's your choice.
there's so many I mean, so I dated very briefly a woman who had been in an arranged marriage for 20 years. She's from India, and she had and I was like her second person dating after she was out of this arranged marriage for 20 years.
Oh, wow.
And she ended up dumping me. What she said was that she really liked me as a person, but she just couldn't relate to me culturally.
That makes sense.
Which makes sense, but I'm still trying to wrap my head exactly what that means, because all I keep thinking is that, like, if you're in a culture of arranged marriage, I think you approach relationships differently. And I am not in a culture of arranged marriage. I'm constantly hustling, and that's probably a different environment. You know, like I'm constantly selling myself.
Was she an American, or was she?
No, she was Indian.
But like, did she immigrate like as an adult?
Yes. She'd been there 25 years.
In India.
They literally, she got arranged, she had her arranged marriage in the US.
Oh, in the US. Okay. So she'd been in the
she was
States
from India. She'd been here forever. So it wasn't like she didn't recognize an American culture.
When you have immigrant parents, it's very, very different. Like even your American life is different than other Americans. I only have one. My mom was born here. My dad was not. He came here in his 20s. And the way that I think about dating, even like I'm 48 years old, and I would never tell him right now if I were dating somebody until I knew, like, okay, this is serious and we might get married. I still wouldn't tell him because I don't know whether this is true or not, or just like the deep feeling that has been instilled in me. But it's like, it feels illicit to date.
Yeah.
As a woman, period. And like when I remember when I was dating my ex-husband, we met when I was 19, so I was in college, and my boyfriend was sleeping over. It was like the weekend, and my dad showed up with my stepmom and his cousin, or I forget who else it was. We lived in a little, the town was like a tourist town close to DC, so they were just coming for the day to look at the sailboats or whatever. And so he showed up, and my boyfriend was there, and like, I don't know that he really. We were together that day, but I don't know that he spoke to me really. And like it was just awkward and uncomfortable.
I hate that feeling, that disapproval.
It was just, and like when we moved in together after college, we started dating when I was 19, moved in together after college, and I didn't ask permission, obviously, because I'm like, I'm an adult. This is America. I'm not asking you if me paying my own rent and having my own job can move in with my boyfriend. So I just told him, and that was a huge culture shock for him. Shock for him. So I wouldn't be surprised if she is American and she lives in an American culture, but like your home culture, at home culture
is at home. Yep.
Very, very different than your at home culture,
I mean, I should not be surprised at all. I just really liked her. So that was a bummer. But but plus, just that's the bit. You're married for a long time, you get divorced, and now you have to go out and be rejected again. And that is like...
Oh, come on. Tiniest violin, Scott.
What? Tiniest violin?
That's what
I got rejected.
Is. So what?
It hurt. It stung.
Okay, I'm sad for you. But
I'm not saying weep and wail for me, but I'm saying that
dating, that's what dating
I know,
is.
But I didn't have to deal with that for a long time. And it was the best thing about being married, was not having to get dumped for 12 years, even though I was never really dumped that much. But when I was, it hurt. Did not have to deal with that for 12 years. And now suddenly I got to deal with that again on a regular basis as you're trying to find your way.
I don't know.
Sucks.
I think that the way that it sounds like you're dating is way more serious than I take dating right now. I have not ever, I guess there's one guy I went on a couple of dates with, but I'm like, this is so it was interesting and weird because he didn't even try to kiss me. After he didn't try to kiss me on date number 3, I was like, that's it. But I was curious.
Date number 3?
I know. I'm a grown-ass woman. Give me a kiss on the street at least. But most times I'm thinking it's a date or 2. I haven't even considered seriously dating somebody where it's this is my boyfriend, this is my girlfriend, we're in a relationship. And it sounds like you almost exclusively do that. Like,
no, not at all, actually.
No?
Not at all. I ended up having to break it off with a few women because they wanted that and I didn't. So like, no, I think this one was about, I was very impressed by her. She's very successful. She's very smart. And she's the kind of person that I would have wanted to just have been around. And so when you are, I mean, we've gone
does
out
she
for
want a
like
girlfriend?
maybe a month.
Because sounds great.
I know. Oh, trust me, she is great. But like, I mean, after we went out for like a month, she was just a great person. And when you are rejected by a great person, it just doesn't feel good. And I'm with an even better person now. So it turned out fine. But I think it's not like, oh, it just didn't, you start to feel the hope that, oh, wow, somebody who is
Could
great
this be
might
the
actually
next
like
thing?
me.
Yeah.
And that, and you don't, from dating, that doesn't happen. You run a lot of people that, it's not that they're bad people, but they're just not the kind of great person that you're looking
I feel
for.
like it's happened to you many, many times, and I'm feeling rather sad for myself
What?
that it hasn't.
What do you mean?
You've dated seriously many times since your marriage.
No, I've not dated serious. It's not coming across all wrong. I have gone, it's because I have ended up dating for a couple of months, but it's not like serious couple of months. It was like, it's so easy when you're a single parent for a month to just be gone like that.
Yeah.
Like you can only I can only see them.
I guess I don't consider
once
that
every
dating.
couple of weeks.
Maybe that's the difference.
Oh, but
Like,
because of texting and calling, you end up spending all of this emotional time with each other, which
have time for
gets
that.
exhausting. I know.
I
Well,
guess
you don't have time for it. I know, but I'm not like some serial date. Like the girl, my girlfriend right now is the first real like relationship I have been in since I was divorced, and
if she rejects you because she's so
oh God, if she rejects me, she's amazing, and I would be, she's gonna hear this, darling. If you reject me, it's gonna crush this poor heart of mine. So
don't you hold her hostage in a relationship.
Oh crap! I'm doing everything wrong. Even that's wrong. Well, let me ask you, because you brought something up that I did want to know. This has nothing to do about being jaded. It's just a question I never knew the answer to.
Huh?
When is the right date for the first kiss?
Number 1, at the end of the first date, if it's like there's chemistry there, date 1.
Really? See,
because if there's no kiss, it tells me there's not going to be date number 2.
Really?
Yes.
That is not what I came across at all. At all. Like my girlfriend.
That I'm a little bit slutty?
Yeah, no, I think we're learning more about you.
Oh, okay.
Like, if there is not a kiss in the first 10 minutes of our date, I am
First
leaving.
10 minutes, the end of the date. The end.
I know.
A closer.
I thought that's what I was told, and I thought that, and then I went out into the world, and that did not happen very often, and it didn't mean there wasn't a second date.
Did you initiate, or were you waiting for somebody else to initiate?
No, you can sense the vibe when you get to the end, and you can sense a vibe of whether or not they want to be kissed or not. And that didn't mean that I wasn't going to get a second date. I got plenty of second dates when there was no kiss. And the woman I'm dating now, she told me, she was very clear up front. She's like, I don't kiss
these women.
Date.
Sorry.
She's her body is a temple, and she doesn't want it defiled by the Mongols.
I married a Mongol.
You got to. I'm learning so much about you.
Descendant of Genghis Khan. Yeah, I absolutely did.
Well, do you know that genetically, apparently, we're all descendants of Genghis Khan, percentage-wise.
He actually is, though. Like coming from Afghanistan and Burma, like definitely. Yeah. Anyway, and has his name, but that really surprises me for adults.
Yeah.
Like for adult women. I'm assuming you were.
No, it was very, very common, and then she got mad at me because I'm like, we had our second date. I'm like, we got to have our first kiss on this second date because, we've talked
and we're
now
just
for
friends because
like
if you're going out. Yeah.
Yeah. Second date, no way. And I had gone on a date with somebody about a year earlier. We had done a lot of talking. And then we sat down to first meet each other. She immediately leaned over, gave me a kiss and said, I just need to get that out of the way so that you know what kind of date this is. And, and I appreciated that.
That's kind of cute.
Yeah, it was cute. I mean, it didn't work for a myriad of other reasons, which I'll tell you some other time. But I thought, oh, okay, get it out of the way is a way of saying, I like that move.
Yeah.
And so when I went to go pick her up, my girlfriend, for our second date, she invited me in her house, and she was just grabbing a jacket before we leave. And I just walked right over and gave her a kiss right by the fridge. And she hated it. She was so mad. And I had to spend the rest of the day.
Did you ask? Or you just kind of grabbed her?
Well, I mean, I didn't like force it on her. Like, I didn't be like, so I want to kiss you now, if it's all right by you. We had
That's
already
what the people do now.
But we had very flirty texts, like very flirty with a capital F and capital Y.
You could have like teed it up by being like, I'm going to kiss you now. Then gone in for it. Like,
yeah.
So that you give her
I think I might have said
warning.
that, actually. I think I might have said that, which she didn't like. I think she thought that was probably... she said the whole thing was...
She should have said,
had an idea in her
hold
head.
your horses. I'm by the refrigerator.
Well, she's way too kind. She wasn't like right in front of her face.
I would have.
Well, the reason why is because she had it in her head. We were going to go down to the beach, and she wanted this picturesque first kiss by the water.
Not a refrigerator kiss.
And not a refrigerator kiss. And so I ruined the story by giving her this fridge kiss instead of the beach kiss, which I get, but it just also shows that no two people are alike, and you can't go by anything. She still brings it up. She still thinks, when I said, what's the one thing I did wrong? She's like, that's the thing. That was the refrigerator kiss. We probably, God, how happy we'd be if you just hadn't have done that.
Well, I personally think that it's a sign of attraction, right? And it doesn't have to be some gross porny kiss or whatever, but
it shouldn't be, I think. Tongue on first kiss. Tongue on first kiss, yes or no?
A little.
Okay.
Bit.
Okay.
But the whole point is this is a romantic thing that you're doing. And it's I mean, literally that guy that I was telling you about, I went on 3 dates and with not even an attempt at a kiss. I was like, what are we doing here?
Yeah. What's the point of this? You have friends. We have friends to go out with.
I mean, he paid for dinner, which was nice at the last one. So fine. A friend that pays for dinner is a nice friend. But I don't have time for and it was not like I wasn't the one necessarily pursuing. It was equal, and we both found each other interesting, relatively speaking. And there was an attraction for me. And I thought, nope.
The things that you want out of a partner is sex,
yes,
love, support, and then a little more sex, and then some more love and support. And
for me, I'm a real failure in that chemistry is super, super important to me, and I'm not really willing to wait to let it. I want to know that it's there from the get-go, along with all of the other things. So I know that I'm probably making mistakes along the way.
Women are asked. Women are asked to not feel that a lot, I think. You're like, oh, you're being too picky or this and that, and yet no one has a problem with the guy having that same reaction and being not hot enough and not doing a second date. I mean, there's nothing wrong. Well,
it's not even hot. I mean, we've talked about this before too. It's not even hot. It's chemistry is something. Yeah. It's truly an attractive pheromone animal thing that happens. And if that's not there, I won't have I guess it's happened with some people that friends of mine who have developed crushes on, that have come and gone, remained friends, and I never let on that there was a crush at all. But people that I didn't like, we became friends, the attraction grew, there's been crush back and forth. And I guess it's possible, but I've never had that with anybody that I actually dated, where it's just not chemistry from the jump.
I mean, that's a lot of time.
For sure.
I mean, it keeps coming back to commitment, because really for this method to work, it's a volume game. You need to meet people. Right? You need to meet people. So, I mean, if at one point you have no time and it's not fun for you to do, it's not fun to date anymore. No. These dates aren't fun. They are all the same.
But I also don't know what the alternative is. People don't meet at bars, regardless of what you say. I don't think that that's ever really been a thing outside of hookups in your very young 20s. Everybody was very drunk, which I don't think is a relationship material.
The end of the night, you meet at the end of the night, and
and meet
things happen.
Air quotes. What I am interested, I will say, in potentially meeting somebody, but uninterested in dating. And my kids go to college next September. So like the amount of time that I'll have that I can date will suddenly be totally different. And the amount of time I'll be alone will be totally different. And like, while I like being alone, I don't want to be alone the rest of my life.
Yeah.
I don't think. I also don't want to make sacrifices. Like, I want it to be with the right person. Like if I do it, like I just want it to be with somebody who like makes my life better.
Well, is it possible? Because I think about this. I think about this too much, probably. But the idea of dating is there's the lane of dating, and then there's the lane of doing things you actually enjoy, and like you have to give up one for the other. Oh, if I'm going to date, I'm not going to get to do these 5 things that I actually really want to do. And is there a way to combine those so that dating is actually about really just doing things you enjoy?
Well, that's
new people.
That's definitely something that I've considered. Like that aside from apps and a matchmaker, which clearly isn't going to happen.
I can't believe that. That's awful.
Just the worst.
Oh my God.
What I've thought, and my brother and I are on great terms right now, but he did give me the advice, like when I was in college and like desperate to meet somebody. He's like, just do the thing that you want to be doing and the right person will come along, which is like, I know like that's a cliche that people hate too, but the thing that is right in that is like, if you're doing things in your life that you're happy with your life, period.
Yeah.
So like, and I've made a list of stuff that like things that I want to do. So that, I did this like as I was feeling sad like a couple of years ago about being divorced. And I thought, how about instead of being sad about it, use it as the opportunity to do things that you couldn't do before, because you would do what he wanted to do, or like you were doing things together, or you doing things with the kids. So like I have this list of like, music lessons I want to take, and pottery that I want to do, and like drawing classes I want to take, and like I need to get more granular with it because a lot of them are like big ideas, but it'll be fun to be like, this weekend you should go to this museum and go to this. I don't have my life planned that way, but I feel like next year when I'm alone, I might do more of that.
You do run the risk of like the pottery class filled with single women.
That might be just fine.
Well, because what's funny is you're like, I don't want to be alone. I mean, being with somebody doesn't necessarily mean being with a romantic partner. It could be a great group of friends. And I was happiest over the past 4 years is when, I felt trapped. I'm a single parent with pretty much full custody. I have no time of my own. I couldn't meet anybody in any way. And then I took a stand-up comedy class and met this whole group of people that all loved the same thing that I loved. And they, and they're all different age groups, this everything from like mid-20s to 50. And I ended up staying in touch with a whole group of them, and we still get together all the time. And not as much now that I have a girlfriend, but still, like I saw them all the time, and it was built on a shared interest.
The point is a good one because, there's a lot of times with my best friend and I were college roommates our last year of high school. We live like a 7-minute walk from each other now. She's lived all over the world when I've lived here, but she's been in the city since my kids were like about a year old, so a really long time now. And she has a young son who's in elementary school still. And we always say, like, people always ask, like, well, why don't you two live together? And we're like, we will probably eventually. That is like that. And that kind of relationship to like, we want to kill each other half of the time, but like we enjoy each other's company the other half of the time. And if we get to a place where like we are companionship for each other, like I'm not opposed to that either. Like the amount of reward that comes from good friendships right now to me is as much,
huge,
if not more than like a romantic relationship. And I think that's definitely something I consider.
Yeah, it's never too late for it. And I, as a guy, one more of these gender stereotypes that tends to be true is that we have a very hard time making friends as we get older. It's just not something we're good
Everybody does, though. Like, it's so
I think
hard.
You're right. I think you're right. I mean, and but I just, my girlfriend has so many friends and she's so social, and I'm just like, how do you do that? All my friends went with my ex, and so like I'm trying to like, but by going and doing something I loved and not giving up on myself, essentially saying like I can still learn something. I can still do something that's challenging and interesting, and the people that I meet there are going to be as interested in that as me. And that shared interest place to start. And that's the thing that internet dating pretends to do and yet doesn't.
Yeah.
Because internet dating is supposed to be about shared interest. You lay all these interests out.
Not even in the remotest. Yeah.
No, it's about marketing. It's about You don't think about what is your shared interest for you. You think about what shared interest would I
With
have that
somebody
other
else
people will respond to.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah,
And that is not the way to meet somebody.
Yeah.
So maybe our answer here, because I'm solving your problems out there.
Please do.
People, solving your problems. Just do something you like to do.
I feel like if we give advice on dating, that's the one thing we're going to get sued over.
You're probably right. You know what? Right. No advice. No advice. And look, I met my girlfriend on Bumble. So once again, I break every rule that I say.
Fair enough. And I just had somebody the other night was like, "Oh, you're Persian. This person is Persian. I'm gonna give him your number." And I was like, "Okay." And we texted a little while. And he's like, "Well, if I come into the city, like, would you like to have dinner?" I have no idea really what it looks like or nothing about him. I was like, "Yeah, sure, whatever. Sounds great."
Well,
So there's all kinds of
so many ways.
There are, but like, I don't know. I think that I don't know if it's because we're older or what, but like, I just want it to feel more organic than the apps are. Like I even did like, when my ex and I were separated, when my kids were a year old or so, I used online dating, which is significantly different than app dating. I feel like I use Nerve and like OkCupid or whatever the ones that match, whatever the ones. But like,
Match is app dating. It's just
now it's an app, but it started off as an online thing, and like online, it was like a website, right? Like everybody had their profiles, but like you could write a lot more. There's a lot more.
And it wasn't algorithmically driven,
and it wasn't
like it's so.
Yeah, and I'm sure there was some algorithm, but it wasn't like gamified like it is now.
Yes,
and I had some much more success on that than I'm having with any of the apps now. And I almost wish we could do like something like that.
I know. Well, I mean, it got to the point where it's like my point here is not to walk away with the love of my life. My point is to walk away with a good conversation and to walk away with a fun evening of like, I met somebody interesting. And apps are not a great way of getting you there because it starts with a picture. And a picture is not really a predicator of whether or not someone's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, it is. I can't, and I'm sure there have been.
I know you're a visual person, so you're like, I don't want to gainsay the picture. The picture matters.
I do want the picture, but I don't know what it is. Like, I'd love like a psychological deep dive into why apps feel so different than like you see somebody in a bar and like you see them, you haven't talked to them yet. I'm using a bar. This never happened to me. But you see somebody and you're like, I want to talk to them
somewhere.
Yeah, I'm attracted to them. I want to talk to them. Like that's no different than like the app in theory, right? Like you see a picture, you're like, oh, I like that one.
This would be the difference, I think, is that when you're in a bar, most of the time you see one or two people, you're looking for one person, maybe that might be interested. Or usually if I'm in a bar, you're not looking for anybody. You're just there with friends or something. And when you're on an app, you now have a menu in front of you and you're going to look through and say, well, what do I find appetizing? So you're on a journey through multiple people. And I think what kills you more is not, do I like this person? What kills you is, am I going to like the next person better?
Yeah.
And so you can just keep going and going and going. And maybe you say, okay, I'll save this person for later. And you little favorite there and put that to the side and the next and next and next. And in your head, it's just part of a grouping. It's not, you're not invested in any of them.
Yeah.
It's just, they're all just pictures. They're meaningless. They're not people because you're not really going to connect with them for a while. And even when you start connecting with them, they're not really people until you sit down with them. And that's why it's so easy. I equate it to a porn addiction, to be honest. Like someone's addicted to porn. They're just constantly cycling through new people, new things. It's like, what's next? And they're there forever and their lives go away. And I feel like it's the same when you're on an app. What's next? It's too much possibility and not enough certainty. And I immediately regretted bringing up porn addictions. I just feel that that's never a good thing to bring up.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Not that there's anything wrong with that. All right. Well, my son apparently is waiting for me to pick him up, so I got to run.
Okay.
Apparently, being a parent still trumps being.
My daughter's got
being a
wisdom
date.
teeth that need to be tended to. The poor thing.
Well, I'm glad we talked about this, though. I thought this was very interesting, and you had some points there that I especially feel better that you weren't like totally on the side of the Facebook group, because I was a little worried that this is such a gender divide thing and that I'd be completely in the wrong.
No, it's a little bit weird. I get it, but it's also a little bit weird.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a like or a crazy comment. We'd love to hear from you, and see you again soon.